Works. Ladies and gentlemen, dear students, sorry, I correct this, dear graduates. That's a big difference. Dear Chairwoman Lynn Fleming-Ashleyman, the foundation and the soul of TASIS, and it's not for nothing that this commune is called Golina Doro. Thank you, Lynn, for the long-time friendship. Dear deans, dear professors, dear parents, family and friends of the graduates, it's a great honor for me to be here. It's also a great pleasure to speak to you on this glorious day. So thank you for this very flattering invitation. Dear graduates, you worked very hard over a very long time, and you deserve to take a day off to enjoy this true accomplishment. A day is one day, and I'll come back to this. So congratulations to you, and to all those who supported you during this time. Parents, friends, colleagues, some of them sitting here with you today to enjoy this day. And dear graduates, please do not forget to thank the parents for this great opportunity to attend this fantastic school. If I may take you back 1,000 years to medieval universities. At medieval universities, students had two tasks, ora et labora, pray and work. Well, today, many of us pray less and less. So what remains? Work. What a perspective. Now, what a great perspective. At least as long as you do it right. Work can be a job you have to perform, waiting for the clock to tick to 5:15, and then you get off to do things you really like to do, like arts or sports or family or gaming or cooking or binge watching Netflix or whatever else. Or work can be a passion. It can be a career. Doing things you really, really like that fulfills your aspirations and gives you the right rewards, emotionally, socially, and financially. And I will let you decide what kind of work is to be preferred. So this is a commencement speech. So it is customary to invite a mature lady or an elderly gentleman to dispense a cookbook of how to make most of life and career. The speech normally covers 5 important pieces of advice that seem easy to do, and the speaker knows it all, and soon you will too. Well, if that's what you expect today, bad luck. So first of all, I'm not that old, or at least I don't feel that old. And I have not discovered any of those universal truths, at least not until now. Maybe it's going to come. But then again, life is like playing golf. The moment you think you've got it, the next ball is going to go wildly astray deep into the bushes. You will never get it. So what are we to do? Especially as life is very confusing to us, but especially to the next generation. Robots and artificial intelligence will take away many of your jobs. Blockchain technology will destroy further jobs. Globalization will move the center of the business world and the jobs to Asia, and an unbalanced demographic structure will ruin the younger working population to care for the elderly. And thank you in advance for your contribution to my retirement. So at this point, dear graduates, you must think, why did I study so hard for such a long time? Why did I get out of bed every morning? And especially, why did Lynn invite this guy to talk to your commencement? And I cannot blame you, because all the developments I've just described are true, and they will become reality. Robots and artificial intelligence will eliminate many jobs. All administrative, menial jobs that can be done by robots will be done by robots. Anything that can be solved by a rule or an algorithm, like creating the optimal class schedule, whoever does that today, comparing lists for mistakes and exceptions, planning load factors on cargo planes, or auditing the books of a company can be done better and cheaper by robots and artificial intelligence. The question is not if, the question is just when. Also, any job that needs eye-hand coordination, even in very difficult environments like driving a taxi or truck, performing a standard surgery, 3D modeling, operating a construction crane, or loading a cargo ship can be done better and cheaper by robots and artificial intelligence. The question is not if, the question is just when. And blockchain technology, designed to increase liquidity and reduce transaction costs, will revolutionize value chains, even complicated ones. Remember, reducing transaction cost implies taking out many jobs. Transaction in trade finance, real estate, art, precious metal, shares and bonds, jewelry, private planes, insurance contracts, and much more will be handled automatically on a distributed ledger instead of many ledgers that have to be managed by many people. The question is not if, it is just when. Oh, and yes, business will move to Asia and the demographic structure will create some challenges in the next 50 years. But then let's take a step back. All these developments are just the new version of a very old story. These developments will do to society and economy what the printing press, the weaving machine, the steam engine, Henry Ford's production line, Stephen Jobs' personal computer, email, the World Wide Web, and Stephen Jobs' iPhone with the app technology have done to society and the economy, increase efficiency and increase wealth and the quality of life. So let us take John Smith. John Smith was born 1917 in Manchester, England. He had a life expectancy of 60 years. He went to work at his 12th birthday, 6 days per week, 10 hours per day, no vacation except religious holidays. And John only ate meat once a week. Some 45% of the people at that time were occupied in agriculture, and 35% were engaged in industry. Today, only 2% are engaged in agriculture and less than 20% in manufacturing. Are all the others without employ? Did the Malthusians' horror vision come true? Let's take an answer. Let's take Melissa Darcy, born in Paris in 2017. She has a life expectancy of more than 80 years. She will move to, that's Melissa. She will go to school at least until 18. Melissa eats vegetables, exotic fruits all year, meat or tofu most days, and drinks clean water with fluorine additives. In those 100 years, GDP has grown sixfold, not just in the Western Europe, but also in China, in India, in Japan, and many other countries. Oh, and globalization took more than 1 billion people out of poverty and hunger. And all this in spite of some absolutely terrible catastrophes over the last 100 years, like 2 world wars, famines, and economic crises. So if the last 100 years, in spite of all those catastrophes, were so positive, why are so many people fearsome and negative regarding the next 30 years? Much has to do with a strong tendency only to look, and we're in Switzerland, to the next mountain range, and use preconceived rules of the past to try to figure out what the modern times will look like. In 1804, a Swiss, Jean-Baptiste Joseph Fourier, Napoleon's scientific advisor, wrote in a landmark piece that technological development will come to a standstill because all that can be invented, things like the gas lights, the suspended carriages, and the large guns, all that can be invented has been invented. 100 years later, people don't get wiser. In 1904, the head of the US Patent Office formally requested from US Congress that the Patent Office be abolished. You will figure out why, because everything that can be invented has been invented. In 1908, James Ward Packard, a revolutionary car inventor, said that cars will never be a mass product because there cannot be enough chauffeurs in the USA to drive all those cars. And in 1952, Thomas J. Watson, then CEO of a company called IBM, opined that computers are great technological invention but would never be a profitable business because 5 such machines can process all the data available in the USA. We could go on and on. Intelligent people taking yesterday's knowledge, extrapolating to the future and coming to conclusions that sound absurd from today's point of view. So if you want to have a secure and great career, we need to make better prediction, right? Good luck. A quote attributed to Yogi Berra, the famous baseball player, says, "It's difficult to make predictions, especially about the future." And on a side note, the quote has also been attributed to the famous scientist Niels Bohr. So either Yogi Berra stole it from Niels Bohr or vice versa, we don't know. The only thing we know about the future, it will be very different from today. Intelligent medicine, cloud computing, facial recognition, driverless cars and trucks, delivery of Amazon within an hour per drones, new forms of energy, and many other things will make our lives better. Or maybe not, we don't know. But being ready for the future will be much less about one specific knowledge, but it will be about your personality. And I promised I will not bring 5 cookbook advices, because I only have 4. So the only safe bet for the future is the growing need for human contact. Persuading a person to engage and buy, enabling different people to work together efficiently, caring for people in need, teaching kids and adults, those are activities that will not go away. Great social skills will become more important than ever. Social skills across cultures, across social groups, across different situations will be your ticket for the next 30 years. Strategic and creative thinking will be key, because that will never be replaced by robots. So readiness to learn new things, to learn constantly, to question traditional truth, to try out new things and to think out of the box will position you right. You can only do if you stay curious and courageous for the next 70 years. And then being comfortable with ambiguity and unpredictability will be necessary and the real assets if you like it. The old saying, fail fast, try again, will be more actual than ever. And then we all know the ultimate truth. The young of today are lazy and preoccupied with themselves, and they will surely cause the downfall of the world as we know it. That must be correct. The young of today are lazy and preoccupied with themselves, because those 4 words were found carved on the side of the tomb of a famous pharaoh some 3,500 years ago. And this seeming wisdom was repeated over and over. The Greeks said the young cannot think, cannot write. When I went to university, the last generation said, oh, the young generation is not equipped for the future because they can't read and write. And a lot of people will say again and again. And so the only cookbook rule that I would really put to your heart is do not listen to us fools. You are the great generation, and we're counting on you to save our culture, our values, and maybe, hopefully also, our world. And now you will say, okay, how do I take all this theoretical stuff and make a great life out of this? And you're right to say this, because coming out of school is a bit daunting. And I have to admit, I have no clue. I will give you my story in short. So I studied law in Zurich, part of an elaborate plan? No. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and so law seemed a good and open option. And why Zurich? My sport, that was squash at the time, and maybe also a very nice young lady. So after law master, and that will repeat itself, I had no idea what to do. Banking, insurance, auditing, consulting, what does a banker do all day? You ask yourself, I didn't know either. So I met a friend in a disco. A disco is what we called clubs at that time. On a Saturday evening, he told me he was leaving the next day to New York on a JP Morgan program. I applied on Monday and followed 3 months later. And then 4 years later, I was bored as a corporate banker. And I had no idea what to do with my life. So a friend, a BCG, tried to encourage me to apply to BCG, Boston Consulting Group, a strategy firm. I had a very negative opinion of consultants, and so I said no. And then he followed up with an invitation to a great party, and the condition was that afterwards I would go and interview. So I did it, and then for 16 years I traveled the world with a total excitement. And then we come to the end of the story soon. When I was in the mid-40s, I became a member of BCG's Order of the Grey Bear. This is the oldest percentage of the company. This is a nice little indication that it's time to go at 45. Huh? And I didn't really know what to do. That's the red line. I checked dozens of opportunities, none in lobbying or economic policy, until a friend, my predecessor, CEO of the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce, talked me into applying. And I've had the pleasure of this great, interesting, fascinating job in economic policy and lobbying for 15 years and counting. I'm not there yet. I turned 60, but I am not finished yet. If that sounds like a straight line, well, it is not. It was always accompanied by a lot of doubts, fears, uncertainty, but for me, it came out right. So what's my advice to you? Well, my advice is learn fishing. Because life is like fishing. Do some analysis on the meteorology, the water specificity, and the fish behavior. And then throw in your line. If you don't throw in your line, you don't catch fish. Oh, and don't throw in one line. Throw in hundreds. I would call this an option game. And people will be your fishing rods and your options. Talk to as many people as possible. Oh yes, and do start with the parents. They're not totally ignorant. But then go to friends, go to alums of the school, go to anybody you can talk to, and you will get the options. But you need 100 rods in the water. In the future, we will see less and less technical experts. These functions will all be taken over by robots and artificial intelligence. We will again need many, many baroque, what I call baroque people with knowledge in a large number of fields, being able to bring together various ideas, various people, and various processes. And what a great perspective, especially for you. The education at TASIS has given you everything you need. You got new perspectives, you broke old assumptions, you learned new things about the world, you learned a lot, you got to know a lot of people from all over the world, and you have hopefully also gotten the courage to be bold and be outside the norm. But today is not the end. It is just the beginning of the grand parkour. So never stop to be curious, courageous, and have the courage to look way beyond the next mountain range, not just to the next mountain range. In closing, you will soon go out of here, have lunch, have a drink, enjoy the day, and forget everything I said. No problem. Just remember one thing. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is mystery. Today is a gift. This is why we call it present. Thank you very much. Congratulations to graduates.